Alpha Dog Experience UFC edition. We have UFC 293, but as you guys can see, it is not just me in here today. We have no other than Harry Mack here. He is a big part of the Reverse Mush podcast and the Bookie's Basement, as well as the play-by-play for Flex Fight Series. Harry, finally, I'm able to get on a podcast with you. How are you, my brother?
It's been a long time coming, my guy. I appreciate you having me on. It's good to be here. I can feel my net worth rising just from sitting in the studio.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Harry, we have an awesome freaking UFC 293 card ahead of us. We're going to be here breaking down the entire main card for you guys. And just a little backstory, Harry is my personal go-to guy for UFC. I'm not just saying that because he agreed to come on. First episode of the UFC show on the Alpha Dog Experience. I had to get you guys, Harry. I kid you not. Give him a follow. Make sure you listen to him. He is one of the best minds in the UFC. No joke about that. Harry, before we dive into the main card quickly, are there any prelim fights that you want to quickly touch on? Are there any specific bets you like in the prelim card, or you want to jump right into the main event?
It's like I was taking a look, and it's tough, because there are fights that I like on the prelims, but I'm not so sure about actual betting spots that I love. I think Ulberg and Daun Jung is going to be an absolute banger. I don't hate the value on Jung there just because I'm not completely sold on Ulberg, but, hard to go against the city kickboxing guy on home turf. I think Jack Jenkins and Chepe Mariscal should be a great fight. I think Jack is probably a decent parlay piece. Maybe Jamie Malarkey has a parlay piece too. He's a fun action fighter. I've never seen a boring Jamie Malarkey fight. John Makdessi's pretty washed. So I think that's my broad strokes for the prelims. But yeah, unfortunately, I would have liked a little bit more meat on this card. You know what I mean? It's a little tough from a gambling perspective, but we got some spots.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Let's jump right into the first fight because that one to me is a really interesting one, and not for the good ways. I'm not really huge on either fighter, not a big fan of either. Tyson Pedro, he's a knockout artist. We all know what he's about, but taking a look at his recent fights, the only two he's won out of his last five are against Harry Hunsaker. We don't need to talk about that. He's a terrible fighter. And Ike Villanueva in one of his farewell fights. So he's coming in off a loss, going up against Anton. What are you thinking about this one?
I think this one's mispriced a little bit. This one caught my eye off the bat. I know Takali opened as a small favorite, I believe. I think something in the minus 125 range. Now it's sitting somewhere around Anton minus 115, Pedro minus 105. But I don't see how Pedro isn't favored here, man. I just don't really see it with Anton. His Contender Series fight was fun, but a fucking slop fest. His first UFC fight against, I believe, Victor Petrino, kind of the same thing, just a fun slop fest, but nothing, he's not very technical. I haven't really seen anything in his game that stands out for me. Seems to be a decent wrestler, but Pedro has had, historically pretty good takedown defense. So I don't know. I see this one staying on the feet. I see Pedro being able to keep it on the feet, and I absolutely favor Pedro in the striking here. I think he'll be able to control distance with those leg kicks and that jab. I personally would cap this probably closer to Tyson Pedro minus 160, minus 170 or so. So I'm going to be playing Pedro. I think there's good value there.
I had it the same exact way you did. Taking a look at Anton's first two fights in the UFC, he did lose a unanimous decision to Petrino, like you said. He also lost very quickly to Almeida. He did get subbed in the first round there. And his last win, like you said, was back on the Contender Series. So he really hasn't shown too much skill against actual high-level skilled fighters in the UFC. I'm all over Tyson on that one. Like you said, I do believe it should be closer to a minus 160, minus 170. And for that range, I think we have a ton of value on Tyson Pedro. Let's keep it moving, guys. We're going to go on to the second fight here. We have Justin Tafa taking on Austin Lane. Austin Lane's a much taller fighter here. That's one of the big things that stuck out to me. He's 6'6" versus 6' Tafa. What are you thinking about this one?
Former NFL defensive end. Yep. Crazy, man. Austin Lane is a big guy. I get why they rescheduled this fight after the eye poke the first time around. We didn't really actually get to see it. I'm not dying to see either of these two guys fight by any means. The price on Tafa is probably a little overinflated. You know what I mean? He's never really been a special talent by any means. You know what I mean? He's a fun guy. You know what you're going to get. He's going to go in there. He's going to throw down. It's going to be a brawl. But like you said, man, Lane's a bigger, longer guy. He lost originally on the Contender Series to Greg Hardy years ago. Really went back to the regional scene, put it all together, put together a hell of a win streak, finishing people, really rounded out his game nicely. So I do think there's value on Austin Lane, but this one might, I'm not going to be making a big play on this one.
I totally understand from that point. And, you don't know what you're going to expect when you have these two huge guys. You may get a slop fest. That's always the problem with these. That's the problem with
Right.
betting inside the distance or unders when you get two guys like this, because you really just don't know. For me, I'm going with the former defensive lineman. I'm taking Austin Lane at plus 190. I do believe there's value there as the dog. We did say earlier, he is 6'6", has a 6-inch reach advantage. He could stay on the outside and pick him apart. So to me, I think Austin has a great chance, especially at that plus 190 value. I'm going to be taking a shot there.
He's
All
a
right, man
big,
in the
strong
back.
guy.
He's a huge guy, huge guy. Man in the back. This is one of my absolute favorite fights of the night. I'm not
Hell
sure if
yeah.
you saw the press conference yesterday,
Oh,
but Manel Kopp went absolutely insane. He went off. He was going
he's
after Kai Kara France.
he's perfectly psychotic. He's the perfect level of
Perfectly.
psychopath for MMA. It's beautiful.
100%.
And just before we move on real quick, I do want to say, Alpha, I know you know about it because you've known me and you know the way that I bet, but that Lane Tafa fight screams what I like to call the reverse brain over.
Yep,
Right?
yep.
A fight that just, it's two big guys. They're heavyweights. They're going to throw leather. They're going to go super hard. The over 1.5 is minus 145. I can absolutely see both guys gassing themselves out early and letting that one drag out a little bit. So that's a reverse brain over spot for me.
I love that we get the reverse brain on the show. Harry
Had
tells me
to.
those little nuggets on the side all the time. So now we get one for everybody. I absolutely love it. What do you think about this one?
It's tough, right? Because obviously Copp's a big favorite here, but Felipe Dos Santos is game, man. He's out of that shoot box gym, trains with Charles Oliveira. All of those guys are fucking fun. They're game. They always come to scrap. I respect Kape for taking this fight because obviously, a win over Kai Kara France, and he's realistically in the title picture. Whereas, this win probably doesn't really do much for him, but he's had a string of bad luck with cancellations and pullouts and all that. So I understand wanting to stay on and fight, but man, I really rate Kopp. Like I think he could be a champion at 125. I think he's supremely talented. I've been watching him since he was the risen bantamweight champion back in the day. So I kind of think this one might be one-way traffic. I think Dos Santos puts up a fight, but I think Kape will be able to overwhelm him with just that variety of offense that he throws.
I see it exactly the same way you do. That's why I'm taking double chance here. I'm taking Kape to finish Dos Santos. I don't care if he knocks him out. I don't care if he subs him, but I do think he is going to get him out of there before the time is up on this fight. You take a look at Kape. He's on a 3-fight win streak. 2 of the 3 fights he finished in the first round by a KO. So I do expect him to come out firing and get a finish for us here. Any official play for you on this one?
I don't think I'm gonna make a play here. I think this is one of those where I'm gonna sit back and watch and enjoy it as a fan. But I am with you that I think if you want to play this fight, if you want to squeeze some value out of this, I like that cop inside the distance or double chance.
For sure. And you get that at minus 160. It's a little juicy. It's our biggest juice play of the night, but I do think that's going to be an easy cash for us. All right, man in the back. Let's keep this rolling. What do we have as the next fight on the main card? And we have Tai Tuivasa, who's always electric and fun to watch, against Alexander Volkov. Harry, what you thinking?
Very high comedy potential in this fight for sure. But I do think the line's inflated even more at this point. I think Tai is up to like plus 200 now. I think there's value there. It's heavyweight. Tai's a big fucking hitter, as we know. He's knocked out Derek Lewis. He's knocked out a who's who at heavyweight. Is he ever going to be a champion? No, he absolutely will not, but he's fun. He comes to brawl, puts on fun fights. And I do think Volkov is the more skilled fighter. Don't get me wrong. I think Volkov is the better, more skilled fighter, but at heavyweight with 2 big boys, why not take a shot at the dog? I mean, look at the Volkov Derek Lewis fight. Volkov won 14 minutes and 50 seconds of that fight, got fucking clipped, and that was that.
Yep. That's the UFC game, brother. That is the game we are analyzing. And taking a look at the most recent fights for Tuivasa here, he fights the who's who. He lost to Sergey Pavlich. He lost to Cyril Gahn. He beat Derek Lewis. He beat Augusto Sakai. He beat Greg Hardy. He's fighting a lot of top-tier talent. With that said, though, I am taking Volk by knockout at plus 110. I do think he gets the job done. This is another one where I think the height is going to be a huge factor here. We have 2 fighting styles of striker on striker.
Hey.
One guy's 6'1", one guy's 6'7".
Tai knocked out Steven Struve, though.
He did, but Volkov has been looking good. And I think Volkov is going to be able to pick him up on the outside. Tai's going to want to get on the inside, and against a guy like Volkov, that's going to be extremely difficult. So I do think Volkov gets it done at plus 100. Any official play from Harry on this one?
I think I'll be sprinkling Tai, just a little dog sprinkle, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Volkov come out with a pretty wrestling heavy approach. I don't think he wants to hang out in the pocket with Ty. And like you said, his advantage is he's going to be the better grappler and he's going to have length, right? That big long 1-2, those big linear strikes, those are going to be there for him. So if he can establish himself and just kind of pick Ty apart from the outside, that's a very, very likely way that this fight goes. But I'm going to take the puncher's chance at 2-1. Why not?
Taking the puncher's chance. You had to throw that in there. I love it. I absolutely love it. Harry, we are finally moving on to the main event, the biggest fight of the night, the championship. Izzy Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. Break it down. What are you taking? I know you got something crazy on this fight.
Oh, man. It's so tough because obviously Dricus was a much more compelling fight, in my opinion. I do kind of think that Strickland is basically a tailor-made matchup for Izzy to show out. I mean, you go back, you watch the Poatan fight with Strickland. He's so overly reactive to everything that he sees, whether it's a feint, whether it's a strike. You throw something out there, he moves his hands, he drops his hands from his chin pretty quickly. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Izzy kind of open up pretty conservative, establish that jab, pepper some low kicks from the outside, bait Sean into feeling a little comfortable, like he can get inside, like he can rush in. And then Izzy's going to show him something low, and I could see him coming up high with a kick and bang, lights out.
Yep, I can see it the exact same way. If you saw the last fight with Strickland against Abus Mamagomedov, I'm never going to say that right. But Abus was dominating that fight until he gassed. If that was a more experienced fighter and with that style, which I think Izzy's going to be coming him in a very similar style like that. And, I don't think Izzy's going to gas, and I do think he's going to get the finish here. Strickland has a chance, though. As you said, it is a puncher's chance in a previous fight. But to me, this is the biggest favorite Izzy's ever been in his career. It's the widest margin he's ever had at any level. And I think he's going to show why that spread is as big as it is. I wish we saw Dricus in this fight because I actually think Dricus has a chance in that fight against Izzy. I hope we do get to see that one day. I'm a big
Styles make
guy.
Fights.
Exactly. And this one should be fun. They should be standing in the pocket and banging. The only way we don't get that is if Strickland goes for some takedowns, which he realistically should. But will he? That's the real question here.
If he didn't do it against Pereira, I don't think he's doing it against Izzy.
I couldn't agree more. That's why I think he's gonna.
I fully talked myself into I bet Sean by sub against Poatan. I fully talked myself into Sean is going to grapple. He's going to fight smart. No, he just plodded forward with his hands at his chest like a fucking idiot, and then he got nuked.
That's his fighting style, though. He's not going to change it for anyone. I don't think he's going to change it here. Everyone's saying he's going to shoot the takedowns. I just don't see it. I just don't. When you get two guys that are straight strikers and one of them is a sniper, kind of like an O'Malley style, where Izzy can find that snipe and put someone out, I think we see Izzy get a finish here, and I think we get it rather early. What I'm taking in this one's actually a little interesting, though. I am going to be taking fight to not go the distance at -125 instead. I do see a situation where there's a lucky shot by Sean. He may get him out of there. Either way, the only way Strickland can get his hand raised in this one is if he gets a knockout or a finish, and I think he's going to be going for that and going all out. So either he gets clipped or does the clipping. I think we are going to see a finish, and I took that at -125. Any official play on the main event from you?
You might have just talked me into that one, honestly, because I was leaning Izzy by KO, which I think is hanging right around even money right now.
Exactly.
For 25 points of juice, yeah, why not at least cover my bases, give myself some exposure on the other side, just in case. I like where your head's at, Alpha. There hasn't been a lot of argument or back and forth on this show. There's a lot of agreement, which is either a really good sign or a really bad sign, but we'll find out.
100%. We're either going to be really happy tomorrow night around midnight or both in a really bad mood. Either way, we'll be around watching the fights. Harry, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on, man. Like I said earlier, you guys can find Harry on Twitter, BB Harry Mack. He is on the Reverse Much podcast and the Bookie Basement. He's also the play-by-play for Flex Fight Series. Harry, any final words before we get you out of here?
No, man. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. Thank you to everybody tuning in. Appreciate all of you guys. Yes, as far as my content stuff goes, find me on Twitter at BBHarryMac, on Instagram at @thebookies_basement. September 21st, you can catch me on play-by-play for Flex Fight Series, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That'll be a great card. And October 23rd, I will be competing in my first ever jiu-jitsu match. So I'll have information on tickets and streams for that soon. But big things cooking. Big things cooking, baby.
Let me just say before we let Harry get off, he told me before the show about his debut in match, and it wasn't public yet. So that's the first announcement publicly of his match coming up. Super excited about that, Harry. Thanks for tuning in, brother. We appreciate you. And check out my content all over SoBet, guys. Dropping all my plays on SoBet. That's SoBet.io. Promo code ALPHA. Get the UFC plays there, and let's cash this weekend. I'll see all y'all next Wednesday for the football show. Harry, you're a legend, brother.